Brad, and Jay.
We'll just get this out of the way here. Thanks for joining us on Brad's show.
Yeah, thanks for coming to my show. I did not say shenanigans. Okay.
Are you drinking already?
No, I've just got water. Always looking smooth, aren't you?
Yeah, I do it. I try to clean up for the show. Look, one of us has to. Come on.
Tonight's guest is writer Tim Curran. We are live.
Hold on a second. I gotta make sure I got my mega pint of.
Got your mega pint
here. A mega pint of water.
Mega
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Paper Cuts. It's Friday night, so I guess that's what we're doing this Friday night. Say hi, Brad.
Hi, Jay.
Yeah, just FYI, I had a little dinner work earlier today.
Oh yeah,
I'm still a tad bit numb on the right side, so if I drool a little bit, just ignore it. Yeah. So with us tonight, oh shoot, we're heading up to Michigan. Are we really?
It's your favorite place, right, Jay?
Right.
Sure,
I'm glad I got my Ohio State shirt on. Yeah. Okay. This dude is a writing machine. Okay. I was looking at his library of books. He does novels, novellas, short stories, you name it. He's done it before, and he's still going to do it in the future. His latest was released last month.
Yep.
Through Weird House Press. It's titled Alien Horrors. Everyone, welcome to the show. Tim Curran. How you doing, Tim?
What's going on,
good.
Tim?
I'm good. Doing good.
What's going on in Michigan tonight besides
Don't start, Jay.
I don't even have a joke for it. I won't even start. I won't do it. I won't do it.
Are you
we'll leave right away.
I pretty much live out in a cabin in the woods, so I'm okay with it. There's really nothing going on. Absolutely nothing.
A cabin in the woods. Is that how you get so much writing done?
Yeah, I like the peace and quiet. You know, as I've gotten older, I found that I didn't like neighbors as much as I used to. And it's not that I don't like the people, it's just the noise. The noise starts bothering me, the lawnmowers, all this stuff. And
right.
I like the peace and quiet,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
cabin
I'm a city guy, so I'm a city guy. I'm used to all of the dogs barking and the lawnmowers, and then you have to do the whole nod to the neighbors just to be just so you don't get kicked out of the neighborhood.
The generic nod. Hey, what's up?
Yeah. Yeah. As long as they stop like at 8:00 so I can go to bed. The neighborhood has to be quiet by then.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of creepy at night. I mean it is, but I kind of like that. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah. That'd be a good setting for writing, I think.
Scary. So do you draw any inspiration from what's going on around you in the woods or whatever?
Yeah, sure. Sometimes it's you hear sounds at night, and of course your imagination runs away with you. It's never anything really interesting, but
Oh yeah. So you've written a ton.
You don't have
stuff. Go ahead.
Hold on. You don't have like bears walking up to your porch and stuff, do you?
Mountain lions.
No, I mean,
okay.
I've seen them when I've been out on walks and stuff, but I don't go up to them. I let them go.
That's good.
You don't go introduce yourself.
No.
So you've written a ton of stuff, like 19, 20 or so novels, 5 or 6 novellas. I don't even know how many short stories.
I don't even know either. Quite a
And you haven't been writing that long as far as at least being published, because I saw like your earliest novel was like 2004 or so, somewhere in there. Is that about right?
Yeah, I started publishing short stories back in the late 90s,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been at it long enough that it was pre-internet, and we used to get all our marketing stuff from Scavenger's newsletter back then,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit more word of mouth too.
That
fellow writers telling each other. Yeah.
And on the phone, that was about as far as you went.
Right.
So you cut your teeth on short stories then?
Yeah. It's kind of an easier form to start with lengthwise.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like all the writers I'd read, that's how they started. So it seemed like that's how I should start,
Yeah.
So now, with all of your short stories, your novels and novellas, all these years later, which one do you prefer? Is there one you prefer over the others, or?
I wrote a novella called The Corpse King about grave robbers in the 19th century, and that's probably my favorite. I really like historical things, so that I loved doing the research for that. It was so much fun reading about, the resurrectionists and grave robbers and all that. That's probably my favorite. I really liked creating that world and living in that world for a while.
But I mean, as far as the length goes for the books, I mean, do you prefer write novels more? Do you do novellas, or do you prefer write short stories? Or does it even matter? Or you just write it and go with
it? It doesn't matter. I like doing all three of them.
Yeah.
After you get done with a novel, I mean, a short story is great to do because you're kind of tired from the length.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a novella sometimes is like the perfect length, because you don't have to add any filler or anything. It's just straight story. But
do you normally know before you go, like if you're writing a novella, do you know you're going to stick to a novella length, or does it ever turn into a novel, or vice versa? You think you have a novel, but it turns out just to be a novella. Do you have to stay flexible with it?
Now I have the discipline where I know,
Okay.
but when I started, I didn't know. I mean, I wrote a book called Hive, which started as a short story. And then I was like, well, I got too much information, so it's a novella. And I was fine with that. And then suddenly, no, there's too much for a novella. Now it's a novel. So back then, I don't know. I just started. Who knows where I'd end up?
And back then was like word count. Was it different for what was considered a novel or novella, or does it stay pretty consistent to kind of what it is now?
There's a lot more publishers now, in the small press than there was then.
Yeah.
In the early 2000s, there wasn't a lot. When I did I was just talking about that Hive novel, I cut, I think about 60,000 words on it to get it to about 80,000 words.
Really?
So you cut a novella out of it.
Yeah, pretty much. And then later when I reprinted it, I put all the stuff back in there because I could. But at the time, they didn't really want anything.
That was your version of the
stand.
Stand. Yeah. Wow. That's a lot of words.
Well, yeah, and then it got
out. So.
Well, then he asked the publisher was like, they're not around anymore. It used to be called Elder Signs Press, and they wanted the sequel to it. So I worked like on 6 months on a sequel, and I went up to like 450,000 words on a sequel.
Whew.
Which is a ridiculous amount unless you're Stephen King, right?
Right. I mean, that is your version of the Stand, basically. Yeah.
It was. So I ended up chopping part of that off and making it into Hive 2. What's that?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say I chopped part of it off for the sequel, which was Hive 2. And then I still have a ton of material, which I'm one of these days going to turn into Hive 3. I mean, I've got a lot of material,
Yeah.
I mean, now when I look at it the way I wrote 450,000 words, I mean, I don't know if I could do that now.
What does that come out to roughly, like pages? Is that over 1,000 pages probably? I know it depends on formatting of paperback and hardcover and stuff, but.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question. You went out for a minute there.
Would you say how many pages would you say that would equal? I know it depends on paperback, hardcover and stuff, but you think that's at least 1,000 pages or so?
Yeah, I would say, you're kind of entering the territory of like we were talking about Stephen King, like It or something like that. It's probably about 450,000 words.
That's crazy.
It is a crazy amount of stuff,
What was it about that world that you wrote
but
so
that
much
just,
about it?
I guess, shows that back then I just grabbed an idea and I could keep going and going and going, it's.
Yeah.
But now I think I do have a little more discipline than that, but who knows?
So what was it about Hive that you love that world so much you could write so many words?
Really all I knew about the Antarctic camp system was what I saw in The Thing. and read in John Campbell's Who Goes There. I really didn't know much more about it, but as I started doing a lot of research about it, I mean, it's so much different than what you see in the thing. It's very, very involved. A lot of politics, a lot of things going on down there, and there's incredible amount of opportunity for characters and situations, you know.
Uh-huh.
And it just rolled.
Looking at your library of books, I don't see a lot of I guess you could say traditional horror type. What would you call the genre of horror that you write? Because there's space stuff in there. There's bioterror things in there. I mean, you're all over the board, but I don't see a whole lot of traditional like haunted house type or slashers or anything like that. So what would you consider your actual genre?
I'm not really sure. I do like mixing genres, you know. I like horror westerns. I like, like science fiction horror. I like historical horror.
Mm-hmm.
So
probably those more than I like contemporary stuff, probably.
You're a mood horror person. Whatever you're in the mood for. There you go.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I just go whatever direction I want to go in. But as far as slashers, I mean, I've never written anything like that because I've never really thought of anything interesting that hasn't been done, I guess.
Yeah. There's only so much you could do with certain kinds, and then trying to figure out to put a different spin on it. Yeah, I can see that.
Like for a while there, the whole zombie thing was so big,
Mm-hmm.
And I was with Severed Press then, and they said, "You write us zombie novels?" And I said, "Well, I'll do it, but I'm not doing it under my name." So I created a pseudonym with Jack Hamlin, and I wrote these 4 necrophobia books about a zombie apocalypse.
Right.
And there's nothing really new in any of them.
Mm-hmm.
They're fun to write. They're easy to write. I wrote one of those in a month. I could knock those out because they're so easy. There's really not a whole lot of thinking that goes into like your average zombie novel. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. What did you want to do it under a pseudonym for?
Part of it was because I had my own books coming out with them, and part of it was just different than the sort of thing that I would normally write.
Okay. Because I know there was like a period of time there where zombies were just done. Like people were just done with zombies, and I kind of think in the last couple of years, I'm seeing a lot of people make a comeback with zombies, trying to come up with new interesting spins on them. So we'll see what happens with the zombie world.
It's just overkill for a while there. There was so much of it. Everywhere you turned, it was zombies.
And I blame the Walking Dead show. I blame them.
It's probably what it was.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's gone down in popularity, and now the zombies are.
They've had spinoffs of that though too, right? They're like a spinoff for that. See, that's overkill.
There was they announced they're doing a Daryl and Carol spinoff where they go to Europe, I think. But Carol quit the show, so now they're just turning it into a Daryl spinoff by himself.
Yeah,
I imagine
they'll jump the shark a while back.
What's that, Tim?
I mean, why not keep going with it? I mean, as long as they're signing the checks, right?
Yeah,
it's making money. Go for it.
Supposedly, they're supposed to be making 3 Rick Grimes movies, like theater releases, because he quit the show. Really? But he's supposed to still do like some under his contract. He's doing movies with it or something. Which, like, I liked it when it first came out, but I got burnt out on it.
Yeah,
around when Negan came in. Like I like Negan in the comic books, but I was over it by that time he came around on the show. Were you a fan of zombie stuff when they wanted you to write the zombie books, or were you just doing it, just because it was popular back then?
I wasn't really a big fan of it. I loved Night of the Living Dead, the original.
Right.
I wasn't as crazy about the sequels. But that original one is great. I watch it every Halloween. I still think it's a great movie,
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to pattern it kind of off of that, and I'll be honest. I mean, I made a lot of money doing it. I mean, I was amazed how much those things sold for something I knocked out in a month. It's sold crazy.
I think Night of the Living Dead was a lot of people's intro to the world of horror, just because it was so groundbreaking when it came out, because people weren't doing that kind of stuff when it first came out. So
No,
I could definitely see.
I actually saw it at the drive-in when I was a kid in grade school.
Oh, that's cool.
It was one of those great drive-in double bills, Night of the Living Dead and Ghidra the three-headed monster, you know. So
yeah.
That's awesome.
So I loved the Ghidra movie, but I had no idea what Night of the Living Dead was going to be, and I thought it was terrifying, really terrifying.
And back then, there was nothing like it at that point.
No. And I don't know. I think it was almost scarier that it was in black and white. So that did something for it. You know, it just really made it really stark. And I don't know. I was terrified.
I don't know if I've ever watched the color version of it.
I was going to ask, is there a color version?
There's a color version of it, of the original. Yeah. I don't think I've ever watched it.
Yeah, they've colorized it, but
yeah.
Does it feel different watching it in color compared to the black and white? Like, obviously it looks different, but like, does it still get that same? You said it felt sort of scarier in a way being black and white. Do you get that same with it being in color?
No, I don't. You know, I don't think it's as scary in color. That black and white really does something for it. You know, it really creates an amazing atmosphere. It just doesn't translate into the color. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there was more of an art to it being a black and white, and it made it a little bit artsy. I mean, you don't get that nowadays with horror films. I mean, I know we totally just went off on a tangent with horror films here, but you know, now it's you know, how many kills can we get within an hour and a half, you know, to bring in more people to watch it. But I think with the black and white version of Night of the Living Dead, it's just more of an art to it that you know, kids of today now I sound like the guy telling people to get off my lawn. Kids of today don't appreciate that kind of art, I don't think.
Well, I think they appreciate the slow burn buildup of anything is the problem. You know, and that's why that it built up slowly, and it really, you know, really creeped you out. I mean, if you think of all the stuff we love through the years, the slow buildup was necessary. You know, it really is, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, think of an author we all read, which would probably be Stephen King. I mean, if he just jumped into the action in every single book and hadn't developed his characters, they would not be as good.
Could you imagine like his whole library just being novellas instead of the 1,000-page books and the 700-page books he has? It's like just all novellas instead of these long novels. That'd be just so weird, wouldn't it?
It'd be in 110 pages and it's done.
Yeah.
50 pages of kids and 50 pages of adults and you're out.
Exactly. So was Stephen King a big influence for you when you were younger, when you first starting out doing your writing, or was there somebody else that kind of popped into your brain to make you kind of go this route?
Stephen King was, yeah. Originally, I was kind of a Lovecraft guy, you know.
Okay.
I still am, but that's what I liked because I used to order paperback anthologies from the back pages of like Creepy and Eerie magazine and stuff like that, you know. And so I got introduced to Lovecraft and people like that. And I had a girlfriend, and she was reading Carrie. All the girls were reading Carrie, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, you got to read this. You got to read this." I was like, it's another possessed little girl. You know how that was in the 70s. It was all possessed little girls after The Exorcist. And I didn't want to read it. And then my sister was reading Stephen King, and she said she had one called Salem's Lot. And I said, "What's that, about witches?" You know, just taking the obvious leap there, you know.
That's what it sounds like, yeah.
You know. So I tried to read it, and I got about 50 pages, and I was like, this is just about a little town. It doesn't seem to be about anything else. And then I was bored, and I picked it up again. I was like, holy, you know, this is about vampires. Really? Well, this is different. This isn't a possessed little girl. You know, so that was the first one I actually read. And,
yeah. You have to be very patient, I think, with Stephen King books. But
yeah.
I like how you mentioned, like, everyone was reading Carrie. There's actually a newer, probably a year-old movie that's streaming on Shudder that takes place in 1972 or 73, and they messed up and they had like the person reading a copy of Carrie, which didn't come out until the following year, and I don't think anybody checked it, realized it, and I think everybody called him out on it because it was like an original, made for Shutter type movie, and they're like, "Hey, Carrie didn't come out for another year and a half. How's that person reading it?" So
they're reading an ARC, Jay. They got an ARC copy.
That's what it was. Yeah, an advanced copy back then.
They're a book reviewer.
Exactly.
They just wanted that Stephen King Easter egg in there. Is what they wanted.
They wanted. I think like when I was in 9th grade, it seemed like every girl was walking around school with a copy of Carrie or a V.C. Andrews book, and
yeah, V.C. Andrews, a lot.
That was the thing.
I've never read any V.C. Andrews.
No, I actually have.
I've heard her stuff's pretty good though.
Haven't either.
But Salem's Lot, that was my first Stephen King book too. But I didn't read it I never read Stephen King until my early 30s, late 20s was when I first read King for the first time. And it's still my favorite Stephen King book, Salem's Lot.
It's a good one. I read Salem's Lot, and then as it turned out, like a couple months later, that TV miniseries came out of it. And I remember there was an interview with Stephen King in Famous Monsters. Stuck away in the back, and their dying days of Famous Monsters, this would have been. and Stephen King was talking about it, and he was, and I was amazed because he was using all these F-bombs, and they had him in Famous Monsters, all these F-bombs. He's saying, "Oh, they ripped off Nosferatu with that vampire. What the F?" Exactly. He was just going on a rant about it, But yet that Barlow vampires became kind of like a pop culture icon in his own way,
Yeah.
Although he's nothing like the vampire in the book.
No. I feel like the movie, the original or the miniseries, I think it holds up pretty well for today. It still looks pretty decent.
I still think that the best vampire in that one is that Marjorie Glick there rising from the mortuary slab.
Oh, yeah.
I think she's one of the scariest vampires I've ever seen,
Right.
In the scene with the little Glick boy coming to the window, I think everybody loves that scene. It really creeped everybody out.
Well, that was the thing that Stephen King was bitching about.
Oh, yeah?
He said they used the same window in every scene, he was saying, which didn't occur to me at the time. Watching it later, I thought, yeah, I guess it was the same window.
It was kind of a low budget deal, so
yeah,
you had to work with what you had there. Yeah. So you said earlier you kind of started out doing short stories. Did you do any kind of heavy reading or writing when you were like in grade school? Did you have any kind of thoughts when you were in grade school or maybe in high school that you wanted to pursue something like this, or was this something after you were well out of school?
No, it was something I started when I was a teenager. Started fooling around with,
Okay.
I would write, depending on what writer I was into that week,
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I wrote some stories that were like really, really bad Lovecraftian stuff, that I had no idea what Lovecraft really was about. I was just kind of imitating, and I imitated everybody.
Yeah.
If I was into that writer, I discovered James Herbert's books, and the Rats trilogy and stuff like that. And
Right.
I started writing that kind of stuff. Bad imitations, lots of bad imitations, is what it was. But I guess that's how I learned eventually, just doing that.
But it's also a form of flattery too.
That's right.
Sure. Yeah.
It seems like a lot of your stuff is sort of creature feature in a way. You have a lot of monsters and stuff. Do you really enjoy creating these different monsters? It's not like you're doing a werewolf or a vampire, but you're creating your own monsters. Is that something you enjoy doing?
Yes. I really enjoy it a lot. I've loved monsters since I was a little kid. It goes back to like when I was in 3rd grade, I happened to catch the movie Revenge of the Creature on a late Friday night horror host show, and I was just in love with it ever since.
Is it
so creature horror? Yeah, I always love it.
Is it easy for you to create all these different creatures and monsters? Is it pretty natural?
It's pretty natural.
Is it?
I see them in my imagination all the time. So I mean, when I like in alien horrors, a lot of the creatures in there when I created them, stories were written at different times, but when I created them, I would just kind of look at the planet they came from, what the atmosphere was like, what the biosphere might have been like that, and I try to create them from that,
Yeah.
So I do a certain amount of research into natural history, and a lot of the monsters and stuff I've come with, I look to the insect world because that's where a lot of really weird creatures are,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I borrow a lot of that.
Yeah, I've read almost all of alien horrors. I've just got the last story left, but none of the creatures or aliens or monsters in the stories, none of them are alike. They're all individual and different, which I really appreciated. There was no repeat stuff.
Now I like to make them kind of weird,
Uh-huh.
a little bit different. I mean, I just don't want to go for like, Little Green Man or something.
Yeah, Little Green Man.
And of course, making them weird fits perfectly with Weird House Press. So
Yeah,
it goes hand in hand. Are these in the newest collection? Are these stories that you've had sitting around, or are all these all brand new?
Some of them are reprints.
Okay.
A few, I think I wrote like 3 of them for this book, but the others are reprints.
I wrote it down. There's I think Flypaper's new, The Killing Jar's new, and Stowaway were new.
Right.
And the dates for the reprints, they were all older, like 2004, 2005, and then these other 3 were newer. Did you worry about, or did you even think about, like, your writing voice changing over the years and the stories maybe feeling different, the newer ones feeling different than the older ones at all, or is that not something you even worried about?
No, not really. I really
Yeah.
like that kind of. I like that kind of story, so I knew I could get right back into it easily. A lot of these original stories were the first ones I published, and that was with a magazine called Burning Sky,
Okay.
which was science fiction terror, and that was a lot of fun. I was in a lot of issues of that, and I loved writing those kind of stories. Of course, just goes back to when I was a kid. I couldn't get enough of the Outer Limits when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Or now, for that matter.
And I think you did a great job of blending horror with sci-fi. It's not like, because some sci-fi stuff is like overly techy or overly, scientific and stuff, but this was very minimal on that part and more geared towards the horror stuff.
Yeah, I tried to go more for the emotional rather than the scientific, which is generally how a good horror story works anyway.
Yeah.
Which it works for me like that way because I'm not much of a sci-fi or fantasy type, but if it has the horror undertones, then it gets my attention. And so I appreciate that yours has all the horror undertones with it, so I can actually get into them that way. So,
Right.
Because instead of saying, they're plasma XZY 123 assault rifle, you just say, they're the plasma rifle, and you're done with it. You don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't give it all these techie names and all that kind of stuff.
No.
Make it like a video game.
Yeah. there was one story in there. Oh, I can't remember what it's called. It's towards the end, but it's the one that's on the cover. The cover story is totally an homage to Predator. I thought anyway. Was that where you're going with that one?
Charnel World, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Pretty much, I love Predator.
Mm-hmm.
The original, of course, not the that awful Predator 2. But yeah. I really love that movie, and I suppose that was in my mind when I was writing it.
Yeah,
but whereas we've got in Predator, you've got the alien coming here, and in Charnel World, it's some mercenaries go there to hunt it to its own planet.
So is that fun for you? Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, aside from imitating some of the literature that got you into it, and aside from the movies we've talked about, I mean, where else do you draw your inspirations for these like creature features and everything? Just you see creatures all the time in your head. Is that from isolation, being out in the woods like you are, or is just I don't know.
No. I've been way over imaginative since I was a little kid,
Okay, cool.
I was one of these kids who told like really, really wild stories and stuff, Very little of it was true. you know, I really exaggerated the hell out of it.
Did you like attract a crowd on recess at school and tell people stories? And
I did, yeah. You know, I made up stuff all the time. I mean, I wouldn't admit it back then, but now I'll admit it. I was just like a total bullshit artist. I mean, it really was.
That's what all authors are, right? They're all just bullshitters because they're just making everything
You
up.
ever go to family reunions and everyone's kind of looking over at you? That's the story guy over there, you know, just kind of nodding.
Well, you know, most of the people in my family always know I've been into horror and monsters and that stuff. So I think they think I'm a little weird anyway. You know,
so they go ahead and stay away just to.
Right. So I try to present myself as normal as possible.
We're all a little weird though, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, makes it more interesting.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit, if you can, about your writing styles. Do you normally have? I mean, aside from, you know, these creatures you see in your head all the time, do you normally have a plot pretty much in your head before you start writing, or do you just sometimes let it go whatever direction it decides to go on its own?
I just usually come up with a basic idea.
Okay.
You know, I'll have dozens of ideas and I write some of them down. Some of them bounce around in my head for a long time. But just a basic idea, something that grabs me, and then I'll just start writing it, and I'll kind of labor over the first sentence, the first paragraph, you know, because that's the hook that brings people in, and I have to get that right. And then other than that, I don't do outlines or anything. I just let it go.
Just let it go.
I just let it build and see where it goes.
Do you do pretty... Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, which, you know, I had a creative writing class when I was in high school, and the way I do it is exactly the way they told you not to do it. You know? They wanted everything outlined in detail.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people that say they have got, you know, degrees in writing or creative writing or whatever, that it was never worth it. Like whatever they told them to do there, they don't really apply that as much to write their novels or novellas or stories and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I think it's way too structured.
Mm-hmm.
I hear that also in other.
I think you really need to let your imagination run.
Right. I mean, I hear that in writing. You know, the people who take writing classes, they kind of do it opposite. I hear that in music. People, you know, don't take guitar lessons because they teach you how to play a different way. And I hear that like from artists. You know, they don't take art lessons because, you know, they want to do it their way. So yeah, too much structure, I could see totally taking away the originality of something like this.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's it exactly. You know, because speaking of that, when I was a teenager, like a lot of teenagers, I took guitar lessons. You know, and I mean, and it's the same thing. You lead up to, you know, you have all these stupid exercises, and then the big thing is you're going to learn how to play Camptown races or something like
that. You know? You're going to be as good as you could be at around a campfire, basically. So
right, which I did, and then a friend of mine, he didn't bother with that stuff.
Yeah,
you know, he got a Strat and an amp and a distortion box, and he was playing stuff that sounded cool, and I was playing this crappy old folk songs. You know.
Yeah. He's over here playing Zeppelin. You're like, hey, look, I could play row your boat, you know?
Pretty much, you know, and Hendrix and stuff. And I'm doing Camptown races, you know?
I can see how that structure, you know, you have to, they're telling you to write out, you know, all your whole plot or whatever, like that can be creatively stifling to people, especially if you're like a pantser who just doesn't plot, you just make it up as you go. Like forcing you to plot everything out or have the structure is just going to almost make you not want to write.
It is. It's way too structured, and it's like, oh, then I got to. It's like a series of chores you have to do. You know, I've got to do this, and then I've got to do this, and I'd rather just surprise myself with what's going to happen. You know,
that sort of makes me think of like assigned reading in school. Like when I was in like elementary school, I loved to read like Goosebumps and all that kind of stuff. And when we got to middle school, you know, they would start giving you assignments. And then like from middle school to high school, like over the summer from 8th grade to freshman year, they gave us Great Expectations to read during the summertime, which no kid wants to read that over their summer break.
Yeah.
And it completely turned me off of reading. Like I didn't read hardly anything from like middle school until, 5 or 6 years ago. So all my teens and 20s, I didn't read anything because school turned it off. So sort of that structure of you have to read this, you have to read that didn't make me want to read anything.
Right, exactly. I mean, I read a lot of those books when I was in school too, and took very little away from them. The book I remember reading in like 9th grade or something was Catcher in the Rye. They had told us to read, and I liked that one. That was a real kid, and I understood that. Especially because he was saying "goddamn" all the time. I love that.
So I don't remember being forced to really do that kind of reading. I just remember early elementary school, like maybe 4th or 5th grade, reading like Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer and stuff like that. Because and I didn't understand half of it. It's just I was like reading it because it was there in the library, and I was like, "This is interesting. I don't know what's going on," but and yeah, I don't think they ever really forced us to do much. So I kind of wish there was more pressure to do it because I didn't really pick up reading again until a couple years ago. But I'm in my mid 40s now. I got 2 kids. I'm raising a wife, so like I had to find a hobby. So I started reading again. I was like, I'm starting reading. So movies don't interest me too as much as reading does now. So
yeah,
when I was in grade school, being a classic monster fan, I found Bram Stoker's Dracula in the back pages of Famous Monsters and ordered it, and it was like, wow. Reading it, and way too young to read it because I didn't understand what the hell what was going on. I didn't understand the style. I didn't understand any of it, and just kept thinking, "Where's the vampires? Where's the vampires? When's it going to get good? When's it going to be like the movies I saw?"
Yeah.
And I think that's a misconception of people who have not read it, and people who have not read Frankenstein and stuff like that. They just know the aura around it, like automatically Dracula, vampires, Frankenstein. It's still called a monster, Prometheus, Frankenstein, and they haven't really read the actual books, what everything's based on. So I think people you sometimes could tell who's read what and go along with it. So
yeah, I just read Dracula for the first time in January or February this year, and it should have been called Van Helsing.
Yeah, definitely.
Dracula's in it hardly at all, and Van Helsing just talks and talks and talks and talks and won't shut up.
Well, and the thing is, I reread the novel recently, and I like it. It's good. It's tough. That Victorian style is tough.
Yeah.
Particularly the way he writes about women, she jumped to her dainty feet, and she,
she needed the strong hand of the man on her shoulder to
pretty
ease
much
her sorrows. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
It's like.
Well, I will say his style wasn't as bad of some of the other Victorian styles I've read. Stoker's, at least for Dracula, that's all I've read from him, flowed pretty well compared to like some Edgar Allan Poe and that kind of stuff.
I didn't get that. You froze up there for a second.
I was just saying Stoker's style for me wasn't as bad reading. That it flowed well more than like Poe and some of the other classics I've read before. His wasn't tough to get through for me.
Right. The only good thing about Poe is, they're short anyway.
That's right.
That's true. Yeah.
With Poe, you really have to dissect, like, what is he actually trying to talk about here? Like, what's his meaning?
He was such a complex character himself that you really have to read everything through the lens of who and what he was,
Yeah.
Doing that digging to find the extra, the real meaning for it. It's like extra work.
It is like, I was just reading some stories by, his name escapes me. The guy who wrote the Horla, Guy de Maupont. Is that how you pronounce that?
I'm not sure.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, he went incurably insane in his 40s.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I think it's important when you read his stories to realize that he was going insane while he was writing some of them, you know?
Yeah. Look at it through that different mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Do
the trippiness, definitely. I get a kick out of some of the trippy stuff like that, just to trying to decipher, you know, exactly what the hidden meaning is. So
do you enjoy classic horror like Stoker and Shelley and Poe and Lovecraft and all them?
Oh, yes, very much. Yeah, very much. Lovecraft, especially.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I read a lot of Poe. I still do. And I think as I've gotten older, I understand it better. It makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Particularly knowing the kind of person he was and the many problems he had in his life, you know, that helps too.
right.
And you know, if Frankenstein was, I originally read it in grade school and I didn't like it. I mean, it was nothing like the movies. Where's the monster? I mean, the monster turned out to be a nice guy.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Everybody else were the monsters, you know. It's just,
Yeah.
But I do appreciate it now.
And you've written some Cthulhu stuff, haven't you? Some short stories and whatnot.
Lovecraftian stuff, yeah, I've written quite a bit of it. Yeah.
Is that fun to play in Lovecraft's world? Like an author that you enjoy his stuff, is that fun to play in his
I
world?
really enjoy that stuff. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there's been few imaginations like Lovecraft.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're going to find very, very, very little horror in the movies or in books these days that is not influenced by him in some way or another.
Right.
Yeah, I'd say out of everybody, he probably has the longest reaching influence out of any horror author, probably, just because there's so much stuff, you know, cosmic and all that kind of stuff can sort of trace its way back to him.
Definitely.
It's almost like a pyramid scheme,
Definitely.
if you think about it, because he has influenced so many of the ones that we look at today.
Mm-hmm.
He's created their style for them, and then people of today that are writing kind of look at the ones that were influenced by him. So it's like 6 degrees separation somehow, you know.
What's that game with Kevin Bacon? It's like that.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, he was just an amazing imagination and just amazing way of looking at things. I mean, I know there's some dark stuff of his, you know, racism and stuff like that, but
right,
as far as his
personal
imagination goes,
personal life, yeah.
I mean, if you go back to the 30s and think of a story of his like The Dreams in the Witch House, I mean, who else is going to combine witchcraft with Einsteinian physics? I mean, nobody even knew what half of that stuff was, but now it's a mainstay of a lot of things.
Yeah, because I was reading another interview you were doing, and you were talking about you were, whatever story it was, you were influenced of like the what is it, like the alchemy stuff of what they were talking about, and you didn't realize like how in depth it was when you went to go do the research and stuff for it. I think it was like a zombie story. It was like alchemy zombies or something that you were talking about in that interview.
Yeah, it was a novel I wrote called Resurrection.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Where the zombies were kind of brought back by a combination of medieval alchemy and kind of cutting edge modern biotechnology, a combination of the two. Mm-hmm. That's what I was talking about.
That's cool. You said you like a lot of historical horror stuff. Do you like doing the research for all that stuff? Is that one of your enjoyments of writing the historical stuff?
I really do. Yeah. You know, I know a lot of people don't like research, but I love it. Mm-hmm. I love reading about stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, once you don't do the research, you'll have somebody that will call you out on it. So,
well, and that's the thing, you know, like doing horror westerns, I'm very careful about things. You know, I do a lot of research to make sure it's not authentic to the time. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I read a horror western by someone, I'm not going to say who, a while back, but but they had Wild Bill Hickok, for example, alive 10 years after he'd been killed. You know, I was like, yeah. That's just really sloppy research. It's really bad.
Yeah.
You know?
And for some people, like people that know that, like that'll take you out of the story.
Yeah. It did. It really did.
It does seem to be very hot right now, the last couple of years.
Yeah.
The westerns. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans to, because there's like 2 or 3 horror Western anthologies going on right now. Do you have plans to write a Splatter Western with like Death's Head Press or submit a short story for the Splatter Western anthologies or anything?
I just finished a Western, you know, I have to get around to editing it, you know, as to
Mm-hmm.
what'll happen with it after that, I don't know, but I really do like the form. It's a lot of fun.
Is it a novel or novella?
Novel.
Nice.
Novel. About 85,000 words, yeah.
So have you read much of the Splatter Western books, like from Death's Head Press, the new craze that's going on?
Yeah, I've been reading some of the Westerns from Death's Head. You know, the Splatter
Nice.
Westerns are very good. And cool covers. I mean, those great covers that look like the Italian spaghetti Westerns. That's great. That's great. I love spaghetti Westerns. I'm a big fan, so that's a lot of fun for me.
Well, they have like 13 out now, 14 or so.
I think so.
I
think so. Justin T. Coons does the cover art, and each one that comes out, I was like, this one's my new favorite. And he comes out with a new one. Oh, this one's my new favorite. He just gets better every single time.
I mean, hell, they'd be great as posters, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah. He did do a movie poster for something that looks like spaghetti Western. I can't remember what the movie was, but yeah, I love his style. His style's fantastic.
Oh, definitely.
Who do you normally have to do your covers? Do you stick with someone for most of them, or do you it just depends on who you're publishing with at the time? Okay.
For the Alien Horrors, did you have any say in that cover, since it is based off of one of the stories in the collection?
Oh yeah.
Did you?
I mean, we had discussed it and trying to figure out what would be the best image for it, you know. But but Joe Morey over at Midnight House, he thought or Midnight House, Weird House, thought that the creature from Charnel House would probably be the best one to do, you know.
Yeah.
Good one for the cover.
What was it like working with Weird House for this collection?
Oh, great. They're really good to work with.
Is this your first with them, or do you have others?
What's that?
Is this your first one with Weird House, or do you have others?
That was my first one, yeah.
Okay. Have most of your novels and novellas, have they been through publishers? Have you done any self-publishing yourself?
I've never did any self-publishing, no.
Never? Everything's always been through?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've thought about it. The process looks interesting, but it also looks kind of complicated too, so right now, no.
And Weird House, they put out, I've got 2 of their books. I think I've got 3. I've got one from Joshua Rex, but I don't know where it is. But they put out like really quality, really nice looking books.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, that's great.
And they always have like a collector's edition hardcover, right? Don't they usually?
Yeah, this one has like the little whatever that's called, the little built-in bookmark and stuff.
Right.
Does Alien Horde, does it have interior art in there?
No, this is just one of their trade paperbacks.
Okay.
I have another book that's going to be coming out from them called Horrors of War, which are my war horror stories.
Oh, nice.
And this is going to be great. This will be in a hardcover, illustrated. In fact, we have Brad Moore did the cover. He does a lot of heavy metal albums, and
sweet.
He's got a really wicked imagination. And his art, he's been sending it to me as he's producing it, and it's really cool. I can't wait.
Oh, that's gonna be awesome, because they're hardbacks to do. Like I said, they look so good. Like they have art on the end pages, and they put out a nice quality product.
Oh, yeah. What's the new one going to be? Short stories, or is it a novel?
It's short stories.
Short stories. Okay.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it should be really fun. I mean, I'm really looking forward to it. Writing horror stories with a war background is something I like doing too. Again, goes back to I like historical stuff, you know. And but I can't wait to see how it looks. I think it's going to be really great.
Yeah, everything they've put out that I've seen has just been top notch looking. When can go ahead?
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, I think it's going to be later this summer.
Okay.
Oh, that's
You know.
soon. Okay.
Yeah. So, and we're already planning something else, another limited hardcover for next year, which will also have a historical kind of background to it, which will be really cool.
Nice. So I love historical horror. That's one of my favorite genres, I think.
Inside
the horror umbrella.
Yeah.
What's fun about it as a writer is that there's no goddamn cell phones. Cell phones
honestly,
really kill horror.
I've said that before in a book, like modern horror that really revolves around like technology, like cell phones or people streaming and stuff. It's not as scary to me.
Yeah.
When you're out in the woods, you could just GPS where you're at and find the road and leave. Like back in the 80s.
Fun. Yeah.
It's just, there's something about it having cell phones or laptops or any of that kind of stuff. It takes some of the scariness away, in my opinion.
I just finished a crime story a couple weeks back, and it was taking place in the 60s, and they set it up perfectly because 60s or 70s, and they set it up perfectly because they made sure they used payphones in it. Otherwise it could take place today if it didn't have the payphone. I even put that in my review. It could take place today, except it had payphones, and it was perfectly set in there to give it that feel. Because when was the last time you seen a payphone anywhere? So
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, I had read recently that we were talking about Salem's Lot, that they're going to do another movie version of that.
Yeah.
I think they had said maybe James Wan is doing it. I'm not really sure.
That's what I heard last was James Wan was involved.
But if they're going to do it, they better make sure they set it back in the 70s.
I hope so.
Because if that happened now, I mean, there'd be a live video stream from Salem's Lot and stuff. You know what I mean? It just...
I think if
isn't going to work.
Going to do it. The vampires are going to be doing karate in the air and freeze framing and stuff. So.
You didn't like Malignant at all, did you? It was not good.
Malignant was all over the place. It was.
I will say, if it would have been marketed the way, if the trailer would have been like the movie actually was, and you knew that going into it, I don't think it would have been as jarring as it was.
Yeah,
because the trailer made it seem like it was going to be more like a Conjuring, like really serious horror. That's not what it was at all.
It was 7 different genres, and none of them were horror. It was like
whoever did the trailers should have been fired because they did not capture the essence of that movie whatsoever.
It was crime, sci-fi, romance, and 4 others, but none of them were horror.
It was like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah, it was. There was like a prison scene where they were actually in the air, and freeze framing. I was like, what the? Yeah.
Like, I won't go off on a tangent. That's another show. I could talk about that for a while.
I did want to ask you, with your long list of books that you've released, your novels, novellas, short stories, and we touched on this a little bit earlier, what do you look at as far as a release being successful? And is that something that affects what you're doing next? I mean, do you feel like you need to, throw out there a hit every time, or is your library just so big and deep that you just keep moving and go on to the next thing?
I just keep moving on and going to the next thing.
Okay.
I really don't know if something's going to be a hit, and it seems like with a lot of small press horror that very few things are a hit right away. They need to gain traction. It takes time. Right. Like I wrote a book called Dead Sea.
Yeah.
Which originally wasn't sure if I should put it out now at all because I didn't know if it was really all that good. But since then, it's gotten very popular. And I get emails, several emails a month about it. And people out on Facebook are always asking about it. And I didn't think it would be as popular as it is. But it's turned out to be probably my most popular title, because people are really into it. They're into that world. But it didn't happen right away. It just slowly kind of built up.
It was a slow build.
Small, very small following.
Is that how you're basing on it? If something's being successful or not? Like how popular people start asking you about it, or I wouldn't know how you would keep track of which books are more successful or which books are a bigger profit or anything like that. So
for me, I just usually Well, how much? I usually, you go out to Amazon, see how many reviews you have.
Okay.
And that's usually a good indicator that people are at least reading it.
Yeah.
And out on Facebook and stuff, people be asking you about it, and you'll see people making posts about it, and that's good. Yeah. But I think it takes time. It always takes time.
Right. How do you feel about reviews? Do you care if they're positive, negatives, just as long as somebody's reading it?
I'm glad that somebody's reading it. I've had my share of negative reviews, and some silly negative reviews, I mean.
Well, since you're here, let's go ahead and look some up. I'm kidding. We're not going to look at you.
There was one for that I always thought funny. There was one for Hive that was apparently written by somebody who was like kind of a hardcore Christian. I don't know why you read that kind of stuff in the first place. But I was taking the Lord's name in vain by having characters say Jesus Christ all the time. That's like they didn't like that, so they gave me a bad review for that fact. It's like that's kind of silly, but okay.
Well, I mean, if you're not offending somebody, you're not trying hard enough, right? So
that's right. There you go.
That's what Lansdale said, wasn't it? But I did want to ask about Dead Sea because I know recently it was supposed to come out with another publisher and they closed shop. So has it been shopped around with anybody else to come back out again, or?
Yeah. Weird House is putting it out.
Okay, cool.
I'm hoping it'll be out this month.
Oh, nice.
So I mean, it sounds like you found yourself a new home there with Weird House.
We're just kind of going through the red tape with Amazon right now, so So hopefully it'll be out this month. Because it's been through quite a few different publishers with Elder Signs Press. It was with Severed Press. And then it was supposed to be with Silver Shamrock. Of course, there was a great implosion there. So
right.
We all know about.
And you had there was a Thunderstorm edition, like limited edition too, right?
Yeah, Thunderstorm.
Nice.
Yeah.
They put out nice stuff. But
very nice books, yes.
With the reprint with Weird House, are you going to be able to use the same cover, or do you not know yet?
No, it'll be a different cover.
Okay.
I mean, it'll be similar to cover that Keelan did,
Right.
I actually liked Keelan's cover so much, that I went and bought it from him.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are doing that. From what I've seen on like Twitter and stuff, people are having the option to buy those covers. But
Weird House has Kent Turner doing the cover for it, which is similar to Keelan's cover, but yet still quite a bit different. But I liked Keelan's cover too, so I thought, who knows what's going to happen in 10 years? May need to republish it with somebody, and if I want to put it out myself, I'll have a cover I like, So what the hell? And I like Keelan's work. He always does good work.
Yeah, he does great stuff.
Did you have to get a little personal? Did you have to push for them to decide to re-release it, or did they say, "Hey, we'll just grab it. We'll take it right away"?
No, they wanted to do it. No, they wanted to do it right away, so it was easy.
Good.
Yeah. Weird House is easy to work with.
It seems like a lot of the Silver Shamrock authors have quickly been finding new homes for their stuff, which is nice.
That's good, yeah.
You were talking about Facebook a little bit. Is Facebook the only social media that you have? Because I tried to find you on Twitter and stuff, and maybe I just didn't look right. But
no,
you have like
really,
Twitter and Instagram and stuff?
No, I'm really just on Facebook.
Is it? Because I was going to ask, with you not being on much social media, and a lot of authors use it, to promote their books and all this stuff. Do you promote a lot on Facebook with your books?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah,
that's where I basically reach most people. If I didn't have Facebook, it would be kind of hard.
I didn't know Facebook still existed. I'm kidding. I have it. I just don't.
It's the metaverse now, right? Yeah. You gotta get your VR goggles, and you're in the metaverse. Because I was going to ask, because I'm not on Facebook much, but I didn't see you on Twitter or Instagram, so I was going to ask if it was hard for you to reach out, and find readers and promote your stuff, but you're doing it over on Facebook.
Yeah.
They're probably I haven't been on it for a while, but I know there are groups like horror book groups and movie groups and stuff all around Facebook. In fact, the weird thing, I read something a few years ago about Facebook where it was in the news or something. How to figure out if someone is stalking people on Facebook or if they're like a psycho or something. And one of the things was if they have less than 30 friends or something like that. And like I looked at I have like 12 because I have more
because you're a psycho.
Yeah, well that's one thing. But I have more, as far as like groups I was in, sports teams and bands and movies than I did actual friends. It was more about being in groups than it was friends. I'm like, whatever. Block me if you want. It's all research.
Have you ever had a publisher? Because I know a lot of publishers now are saying others need to broaden their online presence and have Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all this stuff. Has any author or any publishers told you should get a Twitter or anything like that, or is Facebook been good enough?
No one has ever told me that. I mean,
get a Twitter.
If they really wanted me to do it, I would do it.
Yeah,
and I may still do it yet, but
don't do Twitter.
I'm not doing it.
This guy over here made me sign up like what 2 years ago, and I'm like, oh man,
something
now
like
it's like just a deep black hole.
It's got its positives and negatives for sure. Just like any social media does.
Yeah. I've met a lot of good people and even more bad people. So
like, honestly, this show would not be happening if it wasn't for Twitter, because
that is correct.
We wouldn't have these authors to reach out to because I don't know their emails and all that kind of stuff. So this show wouldn't exist without Twitter.
And Instagram is just weird because you only just do pictures basically.
Yeah. I suck at taking pictures.
Yeah. So
I'll have to find you on Facebook then, because I looked for you on Twitter and Instagram. I couldn't find you on there. But it's probably better that you don't have it.
Seems like there's a lot of stuff out on Twitter from what I hear, but
Yeah. It's cool because you can, at least for an author, you see a lot of open calls for like anthologies and all that kind of stuff that people can submit stories to and all that kind of stuff. I'm assuming they probably do it on Facebook too.
Yeah.
Do you do or have you done over the years many interviews like this? Well, I mean, obviously 2022, the age of COVID, you obviously I'm not going to do a lot of face-to-face, but I mean, over the years, have you done many different interviews, any kind of interviews for major magazines or anything like that?
The interviews I've done have, basically been for internet magazines, small press magazines.
Right.
No major magazines, no. Okay. They're not interested in me.
Do you find yourself every time you have a new book to be released, people are taking interest and they want to do interviews with you, or?
Yeah, basically, okay. Yeah. I mean, now, it didn't used to be that way.
Uh-huh.
It's nobody really cared that I put out a book, but but now it's good. It's good.
I mean, as technology changes, the whole world's the whole social media output. So yeah.
Well, it's easier for people to reach out now.
Yeah.
So with alien horrors from Weird, is it Weird House or Weird Press? Weird Press. Weird House. I always get it backwards. I always want to say Weird Press. Is sci-fi horror a thing you really enjoy?
Oh yeah, I love it. Like I was saying earlier, when I was a kid, I couldn't get enough of the Outer Limits, and basically, if you think about it, most of the stories in alien horrors are basically Outer Limits episodes, my versions of them anyway, and that's the kind of stuff I like. I preferred Outer Limits, say, to like Star Trek or something, because knowing what I know about the human condition, I rather doubt that there's ever going to be anything like the Federation. I rather doubt that aliens are ever going to like us any more than we're going to like them. So
that's right.
I think it's going to be hostile. That's what I think.
We're just going to be pets for them. That's all.
Yeah,
that's basically what's going on in the book.
Is it really?
Yeah,
I haven't had a chance to check it out yet.
Not all the stories, but there's one. I don't want to give anything away, but there's one that's like, we collect all these bugs and specimens and stuff, but what if someone was doing that to us instead?
Yeah.
But are all the stories, and they might not be, but
I figure they will. If there are aliens, why wouldn't they?
That's right. What are these little weird little people things?
Yeah.
They're kind of pudgy. They put like the Pillsbury Doughboy, poking your belly and stuff. But you mentioned, I think it's called The Agency, and quite a few of the stories. So are some of these stories like within the same, I guess, universe you could say, or are they all not connected at all?
No, they're connected by that the agency, which is just kind of like a corporation.
Uh-huh. Because I know some of them.
What it is. I kind of thought in the distant future that it wouldn't be, so much any government that was running space exploration. It would probably be for corporate, so it's just a huge, gigantic, I can't say a multinational corporation, but, just a gigantic corporation that pretty much pays for everything. And they want ore, they want mining rights, they want whatever,
Mm-hmm. So if some of this, I guess all the stories, if they do take place within the same world, like, are they all set within different times? Because you don't really mention like what year it is or anything, except in like one story it mentions a year, like the ghost ship one, because it was like 2080 when that one left, and it's like 80 years after that. But other than that, you don't mention like what year it is. So
no,
go ahead. I think you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, they're at different time periods, Okay. Some are in the early days of space exploration. Some are, set when it's just, you can pretty much jump to any star you want. Mm-hmm. Probably never be able to do that, but for fiction, you can.
Yeah. Because there's some on Mars, and Mars is kind of thriving. There's another one on Mars where no one's left. Everyone's dead. And same with Earth. Earth seems to be kind of big in some of them, and one, there's maybe one person left on Earth. So I was wondering about the time frame, if they all took place and just different chronological, or what was going on with those
various time periods. Some are 200 years after other ones. I just jumped all over the place. Whatever worked best for the story, really.
Yeah.
If someone was to discover you today, what book should they jump into first to kind of get a good feel for your style? Should they do a short story or a novella, a novel? Is there a particular one that you want to say, hey, check this one out first, and then, ease your way into other things, or does it matter?
I think if you're going to do a Western, one of my Westerns, I would do Skin Medicine.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That seems to be the most popular one. Dead Sea's popular. That's a good one to do. But really, I'd hope people would do alien horrors right now,
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd love them to start with that. And that's pretty representative of what the stuff I do. So, I would recommend that one first.
Do you get done with it and sit back and be like, this is the best I've done until next time?
I don't. I go on to the next project.
Yeah.
I like to keep going as much as I can. I don't like to sit back and think about any of this stuff. It is fun later to go look at a book you did like 10 years ago or something,
Yeah.
Generally, I just keep rolling. I just like to keep rolling.
You have many projects started from years ago that you never finished that you might ever decide to release to the world?
He's got 450,000 words for Hive 3, Jay.
Aside from that, aside from that one, yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of all kinds of projects, halfway done, 2/3 of the way done, couple chapters done, tons of them. I'm hoping I can get them done before before I die.
You can always revisit some of those stories that you used to tell at recess back in school, the Recess Chronicles. There you go.
There you go. Do you have a lot of other sci-fi horror for people to read other than alien horrors? Or is that kind of your main one?
That's my main one. That's my collection. I have a novella called Blackout, which is a sci-fi horror thing. And, I could go through my books here. I do a lot of sci-fi horror really as a background, but alien horrors is the only book I have that is, set on other worlds.
Okay.
Right.
Like Blackout is set on this world, etc.
Is your story in this one was it called Neuroworm? Is that sci-fi? In Darkness, Delight, Fear and Future.
Yeah, that's kind of like kind of cyberpunk, I guess you'd call it.
Okay, cool.
I keep forgetting I have that one. I need to check out.
And you've been in a few anthologies with Corpus Press, haven't you? Some of the other In Darkness, Delight anthologies too.
Yeah, I've been in a couple of them. Yeah, they're good to work with too.
Yeah.
As far as on your end, like working with the publisher with a short story versus like a novel, is it anything different on your end? What you need to do or anything, or is it basically all the kind of the same thing?
No, I just do what I do, and I find that they're pretty receptive to it. So, for the most part, so there's not really much I have to change.
Yeah,
I mean, certain publishers. I mean, I wrote a novel called The Devil Next Door, which is like really, really nasty graphic splatter.
yeah.
There'd be certain publishers I wouldn't send that to. And in fact, when it first got published, he Severed Press did it, and they wanted to cut some stuff out of there because it was too nasty. But I told them that if they did that, then they're not publishing it. Because that's what it is. It is what it is. I mean, it's nasty. I mean, there's some real awful things happening there. I realize that, but after that, they weren't so bad about it, because then I did another novel with them called Graveworm about a necrophile, which was really nasty too. And actually has a lot of fans. People like it, and sometimes I'm almost embarrassed that I wrote it, because it's. I mean, there's a scene that pops into my head where this girl's been captured and she's chained to a wall, and our graveworm, the necrophile, is pretty much having a sex with a headless corpse in front of her, and I think, and I kind of went too far with that. That's kind of nasty.
So has there ever been anything that you've written and sort of self-edited yourself, like, oh, this is too far, I'm going to tone it back a little bit, or whatever you write, just you kind of go with it?
Well, there were a couple things in Devil Next Door that I didn't know if I should do. One of them was where a baby gets torn out of a woman and devoured, and I originally pulled it because I thought this is pretty sick, and I thought, well, this whole book is pretty sick, so I put it back in. Hell with it.
So do you not have any like personal lines that you won't cross, or like certain subjects that you won't write about, just sort of off limits to you?
Well, I mean, child molesters and things like that. I'll refer to them, but I don't want to know anything about that world, and I sure as hell don't want to have to research it, so
I won't even read a lot of those. Like I've started books before where if went down that road and I'm like, I'm done with it. I just don't finish it. So to me, I mean, that's not really entertainment. I'm reading for entertainment.
No, it kind of creeps you out,
Yeah. So, and there are people who are like, oh, I like it. It's extreme, Yeah, that's more power to you. To me, it's not entertainment. So,
yeah.
No, that's one of the things I won't deal with, but I have used it as a background for a character or something, but I don't delve into it. I don't want it.
Right. If you're setting up, a certain character to have their background just to explain something, that's one thing. Right. But when the whole thing,
it's not the whole plot of the
right,
book.
Right. Because I think sometimes people lose the art of being extreme. Not to go off on another tangent here, but today it's like this day and age, sometimes people think to be extreme means how graphic can you be and how vile you could be, and you look at compared to extreme of like yesteryear, where there was sometimes more of a build up to it, and it's just there's a difference there. There's a difference there. So
yeah. I feel like a lot of the stuff now is shock just for the sake of being shocking.
That's what I was looking for. Yeah, the shock part.
And it's really a lot of times it really doesn't have anything to do with the actual story itself. It's just like, oh, what can I throw at you now? What can I throw at you now?
Yeah.
And then the story just kind of loses itself in the background to what they're throwing in your face. And I like extreme stuff. Like, I don't have anything against it. But if it's just extreme for the sake of being extreme, it just kind of loses the point. Like Brian Boyer's an author. He's extreme, but it fits and makes sense within the world and the story he's telling. I feel like his stuff's not just for the sake of it.
Right.
Right.
I mean, his stuff's not shock in your face stuff. It's real life stuff. So it's just,
I don't know. His writing is so weird because like it's extreme, but he doesn't really go into detail about any of it. It's just like they murder the kid, but they don't go to the graphic detail of it. He rides a really fine line of extreme, I think. I feel like he's different than a lot of other authors.
Well, I've been noticing out on Facebook, there's quite a few of these books coming out about poop and stuff like that, you know. And
really?
I don't know what you call it. Poop
that
horror?
Poop horror.
Poop horror. That's a new genre that just popped
That
up
sounds-
overnight. Yeah.
I would have no desire to read that whatsoever.
No, I
That
wouldn't
sounds
really.
disgusting.
I don't know if it's like comedy or what. I don't know what the deal is.
Maybe it's part of the bizarro world. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. It just seems very weird to me. I don't know.
The books come with a smell to them, and
Oh, that's great. Scratch and sniff stickers.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that. That sounds absolutely like, what is the target audience for poop horror?
I know.
I don't
We
know.
should do a survey now on
Like,
Twitter.
I'm sure there's some little niche fetish group that's like, yeah, we want more poop horror in our lives, but that's got to be a really small percent of people that are targeting those bookstores.
I would think so.
Oh, that's just we may have to do a survey tomorrow now
No,
on social media.
don't put that on Twitter.
Would you be interested in poop horror? Wow. This show just kind of took a turn, didn't it? I think that's our cue to start maybe wrapping up some and moving along with our Friday night. We've talked about everything plus poop here. The show is literally what's a shit. Okay. Yes.
Depends, but what kind of diaper you got on, Jay?
Thanks. We're here all
It's a-
week. All right.
What Ross call it? A poop bag? Is
It's
that
a
what you
poop
call
bag.
it? Poop bag.
Yeah. That's the whole thing. Before we do get out here, just a couple extra questions here. Collaborations, you do collaborations with anyone, or you just want all your books to yourself?
I haven't done any collaborations, you know. I've pretty much done them myself. I'm not
You're still
against
holding
it.
out for Stephen King, right?
I'm not against the idea, but I just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah.
Are
Well,
there
we
any
so
have,
authors-
much time.
That's
we
right.
have
Are there
Stephen
any
King backstage here. He's got a
Oh, yeah.
question for you if you.
Are there any authors that you would like to collaborate with? Like that you enjoy their work? You think it'd be cool to write a story with them?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of writers out there. Actually, you know, it's a lot of good writers.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind writing with them, but it's really a time thing, you know.
Yeah.
And the point I'm at right now is, you know, I've got kind of full schedule, and if I was to take on something like that, I mean, I'd have to bump something else out, and I may have already promised somebody something, and I just can't do that, you know.
With being busy, are you able to write every day? Like, do you have a set schedule for writing and stuff?
Yeah. I write every morning. I'm not one of these people who says you have to write at the same time every day. Like, that's what they always tell you, but I just write whenever I have time to it, basically, you know. And sometimes I write at work when I'm bored. Sometimes I write in the morning. Sometimes I write at night, you know, whenever.
Yeah. Do you try to hit like a certain word count every day, or just whatever you can do?
Just whatever I can do. I mean, I was thinking that a while back because when I wrote Dead Sea, I mean, I was having days where I knocked out 5,000 words a day. You know, I was nailing it pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But these days, I don't know if it's time or I'm getting old, but I can't knock out 5,000 words in a day anymore. I get tired.
Yeah.
I get tired and I need a nap. You know, it's just.
I was going to follow up with my collaboration question there. Do you get a chance to read anyone from the indie world and small press world from today? Is there anyone that you checked out their work and you really think that not necessarily a collaboration with them, but someone sticking out, someone special, someone who's writing that's an indie or small press writer that you really enjoy right now?
Nobody in particular. I try and read as many different people as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I try and out on Facebook, I'm friends with a lot of authors, and when they post about their books, I try and get them and I try and read them. I have a huge to be read pile.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Never ending, right?
I try to read as much of it as I can.
Yeah.
Someone needs to write a horror story about the TBR pile falling on top of somebody and getting them trapped in their house or something.
It could be, yeah. It could be. Yeah, it's stacked up.
Well, are you set, Brad? I mean, I think this was.
I was going to say,
awesome. What do you have to finish up here with this?
I would say I really enjoyed Alien Horrors, and do you have any more sci-fi stuff planned like that for the future?
I'm not at this time, but I wouldn't mind doing another collection.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have plenty of ideas, and I have a lot of fun writing. I really do.
That I can tell you had fun with the stories, because I don't know, reading something from an author, you can tell if they enjoyed it or if they were just cranking out something just to be putting something out. Right. You can tell you had fun with those.
Oh yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I see a lot of your books available on Kindle Unlimited too. Whose decision is that usually to put it on Kindle Unlimited?
I don't know. I guess it's the publisher's decision.
Okay.
I think it has also to do with the distribution. I mean, if you have it on, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, I'm on Kindle Unlimited myself. I read a lot of books through there, but as to how they get there, I really don't know.
I think if it's on Kindle Unlimited, you can't have the ebook available on any other platform. It has to be strictly for.
I see. You can't have Barnes and Nobles.
Okay.
I see.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, because I was just thinking back when I asked about where someone should start. I mean, that'd be a place I would look first, since I have Kindle Unlimited, what's available that way and hopping in there. So,
and Kindle Unlimited is great for Indian small press horror because there's a ton of that on there.
It really is.
Right.
It really is. Yeah, it's great.
Brian has a question in the chat. He wants to know if Blooding Night has found a home.
Yeah, it has. In fact, Weird House is going to be putting that out too.
That's your new home.
It's turning out to be my new home, right?
Yeah.
They rolled out the red carpet for you, didn't they?
Yeah.
Well, they did. They've been more and been very, very good to me. So, real nice guy, really easy to work with. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it over there.
Have they been around very long, or are they a fairly newer press?
I think they're fairly newer. They have a few books out, but not a lot. But what they've done looks pretty good. Very impressive.
Especially with those special editions, I think, are pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. The hardcovers are beautiful. Yeah.
Like this was my favorite collection of last year, and yours is definitely in the running for my favorite collection I read this year. I really dug Alien Horrors. It was different because I haven't read much sci-fi recently, but I don't know. I just loved everything about it. It was great. Yeah, everything I've read.
If you like Outer Limits type stories, then you'll like Alien Horrors. That's really what it comes down to.
That's cool. You found a home with Weird House because, like I said, they put out everything I've read for them has been great, but the quality of the actual product itself is nice too.
Yeah, very nice. I'm very impressed with them. And I've been to a lot of different publishers. I've been, like you're saying, I was with Thunderstorm and Cemetery Dance, a lot of different publishers, but definitely Weird House is right up there with them. The quality of the books is very nice, and the artwork is great.
Yeah, it's cool they put artwork in the hardcovers. It's that extra little touch.
Yeah. I think it's important to build out relationship there. So I mean, if you get comfortable with each other, you know, they know what to expect from you. You know what to expect from them.
Right.
And it might, you know, give you the want to just keep hammering out the books because, you know, you have a home for them basically. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're planning out some stuff for the future, so I'm hoping our relationship goes on for quite a while.
Yeah.
Nice. Because you've just said, you know, you have at least 4 or 5 books coming out with them already.
Yeah, got quite a few now, and more in the future.
It's cool that they publish a bunch of different stuff. You know, they've got your Alien book and doing Dead Seas, and you know, the one you just talked about, the Blooding Night. So it's not like they're looking for one type of book from you. They're
Right.
taking pretty much everything.
No, they're willing to go all over the map, which I like because that's what I do.
Yeah. Do you feel like the diversity in your writing, like writing all these different genres, that's helped you in your career to be so diverse instead of, you know, only doing haunted house books or only doing zombie books, that you are such a diverse author?
Yeah, you know, and I think it's helped me, and I enjoy it. You know, and really it has to come down to that. Are you having fun with it, or are you not having fun?
Yeah.
Are you enjoying yourself, or are you not? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, when I was talking about those zombie books I did, it wasn't like I didn't enjoy them, but in the back of my mind, I was basically writing them for money, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas the stuff I write under my own name, I write because that's what I want to write, you know? And
Yeah.
Have there been any other kind of trends you've hopped on? Like they said they wanted you to write the zombie books because those
that's
were
really the
popular.
great thing about the small press. Yeah, very popular. And the series particularly were really popular. And, you know, I was amazed at how the sales were every month. It's like, oh my God, I've never gotten, you know, this amount of money for books before, you know?
I mean, you can always look at that like, hey, they weren't the funnest to write, but they allowed you to do the fun stuff, you know, aside from those. I mean, they paid the bills, you know, so yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, initially when I'd write one, it would be like, oh, Christ, I got to write another zombie now.
Yeah.
But, you know, a couple chapters into it, once I got into the character and stuff, then I had fun with it, you know. But
yeah,
it was always just looking forward to how am I gonna come up with another idea for more zombies? I mean, there's only so many.
Zombies go to space.
There you go. That's the next. That's the next.
Zombie erotica.
That's zombie erotica in space.
Yeah,
that's the next collection.
I like that.
Do you see any other? The zombies were the trend. Do you see any other trends that are kind of popular now that you would want to jump on, or just would it stick to doing your own thing? Because you're doing the westerns; they're popular. Anything else like that?
Not really. I just it changes so fast, you know, as to what's popular. That by the time you finish writing it, I mean,
it's not popular anymore.
There's two or three new trends ready to go
anymore. So you know, it's just you just take it book by book and just write whatever sounds fun and sounds interesting and just see what happens. That's all.
Yeah.
So I think it's time we could go ahead and let Tim get on with his Friday night. What do you normally do on a Friday night up there in that state? I'm not allowed. I don't like to talk about.
I will probably watch some movies. I have kind of my own tradition on Friday night. I usually watch some classic horror or something like that on a Friday night. Old monster movies, things like that.
Cool.
Pretty much comfort food for me is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been a fun episode. It's been very interesting and insightful. We can't thank you enough for taking some time out on your Friday evening to hang out with these two bozos with microphones here.
And thanks to Curtis M. Lawson for hooking us up together and putting us together for us.
Yeah,
he got us hooked up.
Curtis is a friend of the show, so he figured, we could chat with you for an hour and a half and get some good, interesting tidbits out of you. So thanks to both of you for doing that. Tim Curran, everyone, hop over to Amazon. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. You can find all kinds of different kinds of novellas and novels, short stories. He's a writing machine, I tell you.
If you like horror, there's probably something Tim has written that you will like.
Yeah, definitely look at some short story collections anthologies because he's in a lot of those too. So he's a writing machine. Tim, again, thank you so much for stopping by, talking to us. I think that's going to do it. I think we're a wrap. It's been another successful episode.
Thanks for coming on, Tim.
Brad over there.
See, I'm gonna guess. No, I did it right.
I know it's opposite.
I can never get it right.
And you know it's opposite, and I know it's opposite.
My brain just doesn't do it.
That's it. We're going. See ya. See ya, everybody.
See you, Tim. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks a lot.
Jay.
Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you too, man.